If someone has lost interest in you, your first instinct is usually to chase them. You send another message, you try harder, you become more available, you give more attention, more energy, and more effort. You think that if you can just prove your value, they will suddenly care again. But human psychology often works in the opposite direction. The more you chase, the less valuable you appear. And the more available you become, the easier it is for people to take your presence for granted. This is why the first rule of making people chase you again is simple. Stop chasing, reclaim your value. Most people do not understand the psychology of scarcity. Human beings naturally value things that feel rare, things that are limited, things that are not guaranteed. This is why people often appreciate something only after they begin losing it. When you constantly make yourself available, there is no mystery, no uncertainty, no fear of losing you. Your attention becomes expected. And what becomes expected often loses its value. Think about the moments in life when someone suddenly became interested in you again. Very often, it happened after you became distant, after you became busy, after you stopped chasing. Why? Because your absence changed their perception. It reminded them that your attention was not unlimited, that your presence could not be taken for granted. This does not mean playing childish games. It means understanding human nature. People often notice value only when they realize it is no longer freely available. This is why constantly chasing someone almost never works. Chasing communicates something dangerous. It communicates neediness. It says, my happiness depends on your attention. My value depends on your approval. And there is something about desperation that pushes people away because people are naturally attracted to confidence, to emotional strength, to individuals who have a life beyond one relationship. The person who desperately chases appears afraid of loss. The person who can step back appears powerful. This is why reclaiming your value begins with reclaiming your attention. Stop making someone the center of your world. Stop organizing your emotions around their responses. Stop waiting for messages. Stop checking whether they noticed you. The moment you stop chasing, you begin taking your power back. And power changes everything. Because now your energy belongs to you again. You become calmer, more focused, less desperate. You stop trying to convince someone of your value. Instead, you begin living in a way that naturally demonstrates it. There is another psychological reason this works. Distant creates perspective. As long as you constantly pursue someone, they never get the opportunity to miss you, never get the opportunity to wonder about you, never get the opportunity to feel your absence because you are always there, always available, always giving. But the moment you step back, something changes. Silence appears, space appears. And in that space, people begin thinking. This is often when curiosity returns. This is often when appreciation returns, because absence can reveal value that constant presence hides. The irony is beautiful. The harder you try to hold on to someone, the more likely they are to pull away. The more you focus on your own life and your own value, the more interesting you become, because confidence is attractive. Purpose is attractive. Self-respect is attractive. And there is nothing attractive about someone who abandons themselves just to keep another person's attention. This is why reclaiming your value is so important. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop begging to be noticed. Instead, you become the kind of person who understands that your attention is precious, and precious things are not given away desperately. They are shared intentionally. The moment you stop running after people who lost interest, you begin becoming someone worth chasing again. And once you reclaim that value, something even more powerful begins to happen. You stop needing other people to choose you because you have finally learned how to choose yourself first. After you stop chasing and begin reclaiming your value, something even more important must happen. You must become emotionally independent because people are naturally attracted to those who do not desperately need them. This may sound strange at first. Most people believe that showing how much they need someone will bring that person closer. They think more attention, more effort, and more emotional dependence will save the connection. But human psychology often works differently. Desperation creates pressure, pressure creates distance. and distance slowly turns into lost interest. Think about it. When someone feels that your entire happiness depends on them, they often begin feeling responsible for your emotions. The relationship becomes heavy. Your attention no longer feels valuable, it feels expected. And what is expected often loses its excitement. This is why emotional independence is so powerful. It changes the energy completely. An emotionally independent person enjoys relationships, but they do not depend on them to feel complete. They appreciate love, but they do not beg for it. They value attention, but they do not need constant reassurance. And there is something incredibly attractive about this kind of person, because emotional independence communicates confidence. It says, I value you, but I also value myself. I enjoy your presence, but I can still be happy without it. I choose you, but I do not need you to survive. This kind of energy creates respect and curiosity, because people are naturally drawn toward those who seem emotionally secure. Most people become unattractive not because they care too much, but because they abandon themselves in the process. They stop focusing on their goals, stop enjoying their hobbies, stop spending time with friends. Their entire emotional world begins revolving around one person. And the more this happens, the more they lose their own identity. Ironically, this often pushes people away because attraction grows in freedom, not emotional dependency. The people who are chased the most usually have something important happening in their own lives. They have purpose, ambition, dreams. Their world does not begin and end with one relationship. And because they have their own life, they naturally become more attractive. There is another reason emotional independence matters. It removes fear. Most people chase because they are afraid of being forgotten, afraid of being replaced, afraid of being alone, and fear changes behavior. Fear makes people text too much, explain too much, pursue too much. They begin trying to control situations that cannot be controlled, but emotional independence creates peace because your happiness no longer depends entirely on another person's actions. You stop panicking every time they become distant. You stop overthinking every silence. You stop making another person responsible for your self-worth. And that peace changes everything. The calmer you become, the more confident you appear, the more valuable you seem. The irony is beautiful. The moment you stop needing someone desperately is often the moment they begin seeing you differently. Because now you are no longer chasing, no longer begging, no longer trying to force their attention. Instead, you are simply living your life, growing, building, improving. And there is something magnetic about a person who is completely comfortable with themselves. This is why emotional independence reignites attraction, because it restores your power. You stop acting from fear and start acting from self-respect. You stop asking, how do I make them stay? And start asking, am I becoming someone I respect? That question changes your entire life. Because the more emotionally independent you become, the less you fear losing people. And strangely enough, when you stop fearing loss, you become far more attractive because confidence is attractive, self-respect is attractive, inner peace is attractive, and people often chase those who seem complete on their own. Once you develop this emotional independence, something fascinating begins to happen. You stop trying to explain yourself and start allowing silence and mystery to do the work for you. Once you stop chasing and become emotionally independent, another powerful tool begins working in your favor. Silence. Most people are terrified of silence. The moment someone becomes distant, they immediately try to fix it. They send another message, ask more questions, explain themselves, demand answers. They believe that more communication will bring the other person back. But very often, it does the opposite, because constant explanations remove mystery. And mystery is one of the strongest psychological forces in human attraction. Human beings are naturally curious. They think about what they do not fully understand. They become interested in what feels uncertain. This is why silence can sometimes be more powerful than words. When you stop constantly explaining yourself, people begin wondering. When you stop chasing attention, people begin noticing your absence. When you stop reacting immediately, curiosity begins to grow. This is the psychology of uncertainty. Think about it. When someone is always available, always replying instantly, and always explaining every feeling, there is very little left to discover. Everything is predictable. Everything is obvious. But when someone becomes calm, focused, and slightly mysterious, something changes. The mind starts asking questions. What are they doing? Why are they so quiet? Have they moved on? Why do they suddenly seem different? These questions create emotional movement. This is why mystery often reignites lost interest. It gives people space to think about you. And thinking about someone is often the first step toward missing them. Most people make the mistake of trying to force attention, but attention that is forced rarely lasts. The strongest attention often comes naturally through curiosity, and curiosity cannot exist when everything is constantly explained. This does not mean playing games. It means becoming comfortable with silence, comfortable with not needing immediate answers, comfortable with not chasing every person who becomes distant, because confidence often reveals itself through patience. The people who command attention rarely seem desperate for it. They do not rush, they do not panic, they do not feel the need to explain every emotion. And this creates something powerful, presence. Think about the people who leave strong impressions on others. Many of them say less than everyone else. They do not reveal everything immediately. There is a calmness about them, a mystery. And mystery keeps people interested because the human mind loves solving puzzles. It loves discovering hidden things. This is why silence often speaks louder than words. Silence communicates strength. It says, I do not need to chase. I do not need to convince. I do not need to force your attention. And there is something deeply attractive about this kind of emotional control. Another reason silence works is because it protects your dignity. Many people lose their power because they over-explain. They try too hard to be understood, too hard to be chosen, too hard to be remembered. But powerful people understand something different. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your thoughts and emotions. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step back and say nothing, because your peace matters, your energy matters, and your value does not decrease simply because someone stopped noticing it. The irony is beautiful. The more you desperately try to hold someone's attention, the more distant they often become. The more comfortable you become with silence, the more your presence begins to feel valuable again, because now you are no longer chasing. You are no longer demanding. You are simply living your life, growing, improving, moving forward. And suddenly people begin wondering about you again, because mystery creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention, and attention often creates renewed interest. Once you understand the power of silence and mystery, something even more important happens. You stop focusing on winning people back and start focusing on becoming someone worth chasing naturally. After learning the power of silence and mystery, you arrive at the most important shift of all. You stop focusing on winning people back, and you start focusing on yourself. This is where everything changes. Most people make a huge mistake when someone loses interest in them. They make that person their mission. Every thought becomes about them. Every action becomes about getting their attention. Every improvement becomes an attempt to prove something. But there is a problem with this approach. The more your life revolves around one person, the less attractive you often become, because obsession destroys your value, desperation destroys your confidence. And confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess. The fastest way to become attractive again is not to chase someone. It is to grow, to improve, to become someone who is deeply invested in their own life. Think about the people who naturally attract attention. They are usually focused on something bigger than relationships. They have goals, dreams, purpose. They are building something, learning something, becoming something. And there is something incredibly magnetic about a person who is moving forward in life, because growth creates energy, and energy attracts people. This is why self-improvement is so powerful. When you focus on your body, your mind, your confidence, and your mission, your entire presence changes. You become more interesting, more confident, more valuable, not because you are trying to impress someone, but because growth naturally transforms you. Most people underestimate how attractive purpose really is. Purpose changes the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you think. It removes desperation because now your happiness no longer depends entirely on one person's attention. Your life has direction, and direction creates confidence. The irony is beautiful. The moment you stop making someone the center of your world is often the moment they start noticing you again, because now you are different. You are no longer waiting, no longer chasing, no longer trying to force anything. You are simply becoming better, and people are naturally drawn toward those who are growing. Think about human psychology. People chase what appears valuable, and value often comes from progress, from ambition, from self-respect. When someone sees that you are becoming stronger, more disciplined, and more fulfilled without them, it changes their perception because growth communicates abundance. It says, my life is moving forward. I have purpose. I am becoming someone better. This kind of energy is difficult to ignore. Another reason self-improvement works is because it restores your identity. Many people lose themselves inside relationships. They forget who they are, forget their goals, forget their passions. Everything becomes about another person. And when that person loses interest, they feel empty. But self-growth brings you back to yourself. You remember your dreams, your values, your purpose, and that creates something incredibly powerful, inner confidence, because confidence is not created by someone choosing you. Confidence is created by becoming someone you are proud of, every workout, every new skill. Every goal you achieve, every promise you keep to yourself builds self-respect, and self-respect changes your energy. You stop asking, how do I make them come back? And you start asking, how do I become the best version of myself? That question changes everything because now your growth no longer depends on another person's decisions. You take your power back. And when people see someone who is focused, disciplined, and improving, they often become curious because growth is attractive, purpose is attractive, confidence is attractive. The irony is that the more you focus on becoming valuable, the less you need anyone to notice it. And strangely enough, this is often when people start paying attention because people chase at what appears valuable and growing. And there is nothing more valuable than a person who is fully committed to becoming better every single day. Once you begin focusing on yourself and your purpose, you naturally start protecting your energy more carefully because not everyone deserves unlimited access to the person you are becoming. As you begin focusing on yourself and rebuilding your value, another lesson becomes extremely important. Stop giving people free emotional access to you. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your attention, your energy, and your emotions. One of the biggest reasons people lose respect and attraction is because they make themselves too available. They answer every message immediately. They are always there, always ready, always waiting. And slowly, their presence starts feeling ordinary, expected, guaranteed. Human psychology has a strange habit. People often appreciate things less when they believe they can have them whenever they want. This is why your attention becomes more valuable when it is selective. Think about the people you respect and admire. Most of them protect their time, protect their energy, protect their peace. They are kind, but they are not available to everyone all the time because they understand something powerful. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Every person you allow into your emotional world affects your energy. Some people inspire you, some people support you, but some people only take. They take your attention, your peace, your emotional strength. And if you allow everyone unlimited access to you, eventually you become exhausted. This is why emotional boundaries are so important. When someone loses interest in you, the natural reaction is often to give more attention, more time, more emotional energy. But very often, this only lowers your value because what is constantly available is rarely appreciated. Scarcity creates value. Not because you are trying to manipulate anyone, but because people naturally value things that are limited. This is why selective attention is so powerful. The moment you stop giving everyone unlimited access to you, your presence becomes more meaningful. You stop responding to every situation, stop reacting to every emotion, Stop making yourself available for people who only remember you when they need something. And suddenly, something changes. People begin noticing your absence. They begin valuing your presence more because now your attention feels earned instead of automatic. The truth is simple. You teach people how to treat you through what you allow. If you constantly sacrifice your peace to keep someone's attention, they may start expecting it. If you always make yourself available, they may stop appreciating your availability. If you always put others before yourself, they may assume your needs do not matter. This is why protecting your emotional energy is so important, because your attention has value, your time has value, your peace has value, and people often respect what appears valuable. There is another reason this matters. Protecting your energy builds self-respect. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you say yes to yourself. Every time you stop chasing someone who's indifferent, you reclaim your dignity. Every time you protect your peace, your confidence grows, and confidence changes your entire presence. Because confident people do not need constant contact. They do not need to force connections. They understand that the right people will value their presence, and the wrong people are not worth exhausting themselves for. The irony is beautiful. The less available you become for people who take you for granted, the more they often notice your value, because now your attention is no longer free. It becomes meaningful, intentional, special. This does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming selective, giving your energy to people who deserve it, protecting your emotional space, and understanding that your presence is a gift, not an obligation. The most attractive people are often those who respect their own energy enough to protect it, because self-respect creates value, and value creates attraction. The moment you stop giving unlimited emotional access to everyone, you begin becoming someone whose attention feels important, and when your attention feels important, your presence becomes difficult to replace. This naturally leads to the final lesson. The real secret is not making people chase you, but becoming the kind of person they fear losing. After everything you have learned, you finally arrive at the deepest truth. The real goal is not to make people chase you. The real goal is to become someone they fear losing. There is a huge difference between the two. Most people spend their lives trying to get attention, trying to make someone text them, miss them, think about them. But this approach keeps all the power in someone else's hands. Because your happiness still depends on another person's actions, true power begins when you stop asking, how do I make them chase me? And start asking, how do I become so valuable that my absence is felt? This question changes everything, because people often realize the value of something only when they believe they can lose it. This is human nature. Many people take attention for granted, take kindness for granted, take loyalty for granted, until one day it is no longer there. Then suddenly they remember its value. This is why becoming someone people fear losing is so powerful, because it changes the entire dynamic. You are no longer trying to convince someone to stay. You are simply becoming someone whose presence naturally matters. Think about the people who leave a lasting impact on others. They usually possess certain qualities: confidence, purpose, self-respect, emotional strength. They have standards, they have direction, they are building meaningful lives. And because of this, their presence feels valuable. Losing them feels significant. This is why self-respect is so important. People often fear losing those who respect themselves, because self-respecting people are willing to walk away from situations that no longer serve them. They are not controlled by fear, not controlled by loneliness, not controlled by the need for attention. And there is something deeply powerful about someone who is willing to leave rather than abandon themselves. This creates emotional impact, because confidence is attractive, strength is attractive, self-respect is attractive. Most people become easy to replace because they forget themselves in relationships. They tolerate everything, accepts everything, allow themselves to be taken for granted, and slowly their value decreases. But the person who knows their worth creates a different experience. Their time matters, their attention matters, their presence matters. And because it matters, losing them matters, there is another psychological truth. people are naturally attracted to individuals who appear complete on their own, people who have purpose, people who have passion, people who have their own lives, because these people radiate abundance. They do not seem desperate. They do not seem empty. They do not seem like they need someone to save them. And that independence is magnetic. The irony is beautiful. The less you need people, the more attractive you often become, not because you become cold, but because your happiness no longer depends entirely on external validation. You become calmer, more grounded, more confident, and confidence changes the way people see you. You stop trying to force connections. You stop chasing attention. You stop begging to be chosen because you finally realize something powerful. Your value does not depend on whether one person notices it. Your value comes from who you are. The person who fears losing themselves becomes desperate. The person who values themselves becomes powerful. This is why the willingness to walk away changes everything, because it communicates strength. It says, I value you, but I value myself too, Dali. I appreciate this connection, but I will not destroy my peace to keep it. I would rather lose someone else than lose myself. That kind of mindset is unforgettable because it comes from self-respect. And self-respect always creates attraction. The truth is that people often begin chasing you when you stop chasing them. People often become curious when you stop seeking their approval. People often notice your value when you become focused on your own growth. But by that point, something inside you has already changed. You are no longer obsessed with being chosen because you have finally chosen yourself. And that is the ultimate secret. The most attractive person in the room is not the one desperately trying to get attention. It is the one who knows their worth, protects their peace, and lives such a meaningful life that their presence becomes impossible to replace. Because the moment you become someone who deeply respects themselves, you stop trying to make people chase you, and you become the person they naturally never want to lose.